I'm trying to construct really a complex narrative, a very long mythology, but I'm trying to reimagine things. And this was part of an installation called Infinite Peyote Road. And I always like to give a disclaimer about, my work at the Native American Church. It's not about me. I mean, it is about my experiences, but I'm not trying to represent myself as any type of expert peyote man or anything like that. I'm a member of a chapter, and I go to meetings, but I've always been fascinated by the work. I've always been obsessed with the peyote paintings in my parents' house. I've always known who peyote people were, and then eventually started to go back. But this is me receiving my name during a peyote ceremony from the last Delaware language name giver and speaker, Noreen Thompson. Mm. And I've altered the photo quite a bit. The idea of that installation was really to kind of think about the freedom of expression, freedom of religion, the whole idea that the Native American Church, the legal battles that they've gone through, and the church has gone through, and the importance that it is, how important it is for all Americans and for all religions as the vanguard for the freedom of religion. If it wasn't for the Native American Church, we would be repressing religions. And so at one time it was an outlawed religion. And that's one reason why something I try to do is, since I come from, not try to do, was something that was kind of natural, was this kind of using the vernacular of rock and roll or underground music or punk rock music. And there was a design firm called Hypnosis that made these album covers that was famous for, co-opting these bars to hide the eyes of the innocent or the guilty. And so this is me getting my name, my Delaware name, in a peyote meeting, and it was actually also documented in a journal of anthropology about Delaware naming ceremonies. Mm-hmm. And so it's my understanding that I was one of the last people, my brother and I were some of the last people to receive names from Noreen Thompson. But it looks like a little gun in my hand there. But that was at a peyote meeting, and it's kind of, those are some of my earliest recollections. Mm-hmm. And I just, I want to, it's my experience. I'm just trying to, I'm inserting myself in it because it's based around my experience. It's based around my experience. But my thing is, I'm engaging the archive. It already exists in this anthropological journal, mm-hmm. and so I'm really just mixing it up, mm-hmm. trying to, I could do another iteration of it with that mm-hmm. Article or whatever, but yeah, that's probably all I have to say on that. So this what we're looking at here is a homemade flag. Again, from I put all of these kind of different pieces together to create this, out of this large body of work about the Native American Church I've been creating, called in this installation called Infinite Peyote Road. But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to imagine or reimagine logos of the Native American Church, part of the problematics of the Native American Church, or not problematics, but if you're carrying peyote with you, and again, I'm trying to tell the story of the Native American Church. I want people to understand the beauty of the religion. I'm not trying to be pious and say that I'm some kind of great peyote person, but I want people to know how important this religion is in my community. And what I'm trying to do is to reimagine these logos. What she would do is, if you were driving down to what we call what are called the peyote gardens, there are all types of bureaucracies and paperwork. You need to carry large amounts or any amount of peyote with you. And so people would have these cards. We have chapters. A chapter is like a church. And so, I'm trying to reimagine or create these imaginary chapter symbols. And so this is kind of a crude, based on a peyote jewelry design off a German silver design, which is a very popular form of expression and art form of the Native American church and just in general Indian art in the 70s. I took a silver peyote pen that I have and tried to cut out, or to reimagine it for a flag. What really what I'm trying to do though with this work is to make these images knowable through repetition. So while I don't expect the layperson to come in, of course nowadays there's always a didactic panel, but I want people to learn through repetition what these images are. That's kind of how I'm working. That's kind of what my practice. That's how I'm trying to communicate with people. Is it's through repetition. And so these around the bulbs of that look like petals, or the really more bulbs of the peyote are these moons, which are these altars that are the part of the. There's two strains in the Native American church. There's half moon and then there's big moon, and I'm more familiar with the half moon ceremony that came from Quanah Parker. And so this is just an imaginary flag. I don't know, I've never heard of anybody creating a flag for Native American church, but I have seen cards with logos on it. I have, again, it's probably just my interest in looking at tribal seals, thinking about where tribes come from today. It's about the Native American church, but it's Indian in general. Really, ultimately, I was thinking about Brumid Echo Hawk and my grandpa Tom Chapman and the Pawnee tribe creating their flag, and the lady who created the first Pawnee flag. And so my mom, who is a Pawnee Kiowa woman, she makes Plains Indian dance clothes or regalia. And so my mother and I collaborated on that. I cut out all the pieces and she sewed them on, just like she sews a shawl. So while she doesn't get credit, that's just a privilege that I get.
It's a collaboration.
But she's made outfits for other Indian Native American performance artists and things. And I thought, well, everybody else is collaborating with my mom, so I should start collaborating with my mom. So this is my first kind of reimagined Native American church flag, but it's just imaginary. It's not anything I've seen anybody do.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it, but I just have an interest in flags. And somebody said it reminded them of the flags from Akira Kurosawa films, and so I just like the scale. And also I like what kind of the deeper symbols and meaning of community and kind of organization and representation and things like that. So
that's neat. Okay, Nathan, you're going to talk about your panels for us.
Yeah, so these are plaster panels. They are a motif that is very common in the church, in Native American church art. It is so if you look at the work of Stephen Mopo or Achai, they would have these moons in their prints and paintings as kind of a central figure sometimes. And there's a famous mural that Stephen Mopo painted in Anadarko that were of a moon with feathers on top of it. So what I'm trying to do is, I grew up at a time when that art was ubiquitous, or it seemed ubiquitous to me. And I feel like rather only now the devotional art of the Native American church, the fans, the boxes, those things, they're very much being made and used today, and people are making beautiful work. But I felt that that this type of experience was missing, or not missing, or is very rare. But my inspiration is the Kiowa 5. Blue, yellow, and red are the colors of the robes of robed men, the men who lead the ceremonies of Native American church meetings. And the Native American church is it's probably Nora. I saw a quote from Nora Dean Thompson that said that who was a Peyote person, said that she believed they were the most sincere prayers she's ever heard. And so really what I'm trying to do is kind of pay tribute in a way, in this really abstract way, to these men, people who kind of keeping this tradition alive. You know, the Native American church came from a time of great spiritual crisis when we were losing our original indigenous religions, and the Native American church was this vessel where we could keep very important parts, or we could kind of hide parts of individual religions in it. But in my experience, Peyote people are very, very humble, and that's when I go back to that sincerity. It's a very, very humble religion, and oftentimes the men or the people who are the primary or the compose the community, you know, in my experience, work in our housing authorities. They build homes. They're craftsmen. They're mechanics. I've even heard people use the word mechanics talking about Native American church things. But what I'm trying to do is kind of again use repetition. I'm also thinking about you know, the history of contemporary art. These very simple colors, you know, minimalism, things like that, in a very crude way. But really, in a way, I'm really, you know, these things in real life, real altars. These are, you know, I call these altars, but they're not. You know, they're ethereal. They're dirt, and they go away, and you'd never know they were there. But what I'm doing is I'm thinking about the people, you know, who make them, who make those altars, and thinking about the Kiowa 5 and those motifs, and just trying to put my own take on it and to make something that I think is interesting. I don't necessarily think this. I don't know who this works for. You know, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to make this for Native American church people to come and to give me any kind of accolades for or anything. I'm trying to reflect my experience as an Oklahoma Indian, as an intertribal person who grew up around these people and do this practice. And to me, these are just, that's what I just think of them and these guys and who I know run these meetings. And it is very gendered. They are robed men, but they build homes. They're home builders, and they're men. They're people that work with their hands and stuff. And so this was just something natural that I've done it in concrete, drywall, but you know, it also is kind of an influence that from Bard, where people were, you know, doing paintings or drawings on walls and then cutting the piece of the wall out with them. So I'm just kind of mixing all kinds of artistic languages, of vernaculars together to try to express my experience as an Oklahoma Indian.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Nathan.
You're welcome. Thank you.